It's Mississippi's Radio Happy Hour.
Well, I'm going to Mississippi, here I come.
You're listening to Good Things with Rebecca Turner.
Well, I'm going to Mississippi, here I come.
Bringing you the good stories of Mississippi's people, places, and things to do. Now, here's Rebecca.
Good afternoon, SuperTalk Mississippi. You are tuned into your Radio Happy Hour. That's the Good Things. I'm your host, Rebecca Turner. We've got Rhino in studio with us today. And don't forget that today is a great day to plan a little Mississippi getaway for you and yours. So you can do that by going over to visitmississippi.org. And if you are tuned in at supertalk.fm/watch, you will see that I'm not alone today in the studio. You'll also be happy to know I'm not getting arrested today in the studio because we have a law enforcement officer with us today. But we're going to meet the lady, Christy Skyes. She has made history in Claiborne County, becoming the first woman to be appointed Chief Deputy. So welcome, Chief.
Thank you.
Does that get old, hearing Chief?
No.
Chief Sykes?
Never.
Never old, considering you had no idea that you would ever reach this role of being a chief there in Claiborne County. So first off, though, I want to know the difference between sheriff and chief. We were talking about this off air, and I feel it's silly, but I kind of don't know what's the difference between the two roles. So as chief, what do you do?
I basically run day-to-day operations. The sheriff is the politician. I'm the one behind the scenes making everything happen. The sheriff is the highest ranking law enforcement officer. I'm the undersheriff, so I'm number 2.
You're number 2.
I'm number 2.
That's pretty cool. Well, you have been in law enforcement for quite a while, working your way up. So when did you first get a taste of law enforcement? When did you first get into law enforcement?
In 2007 with Alcorn State University.
And you were a patrol?
I was a patrolman.
And you stayed at that job faithfully for?
13 years.
13 years.
13 long years.
The longest running patrol officer there at Alcorn.
Yes, ma'am.
And while you were patrolling the university, you racked up how many degrees?
4.
Ooh, girl, you were busy. Okay, so what all do you have degrees in?
I have my bachelor's in criminal justice, master's in workforce education, master's in athletic compliance, and a master's in athletic management.
So did any of those degrees come before you got the job at Alcorn, or like the criminal justice, or did you go through the police academy and route before working there?
I went through police academy first, and then I enrolled in school. It was an opportunity, so I enrolled in school, and the degrees came after.
Because there at Alcorn, if you are an employee of the university, you get your tuition paid for, correct?
Yes.
So, man, you took that opportunity and ran with it.
I did.
What did you just say, oh, look through the catalog and go, I think I need this degree and this degree?
Basically, I just wanted to have options.
Yeah.
Options. I knew I could leave Alcorn and go anywhere I wanted to go.
But I'm curious, where did you go from criminal justice degree? That makes perfect sense. You were a patrol officer there at Alcorn. You went through, police academy. But then the athletic one, was that just more of like, ooh, you scratched an itch?
That was more of working all those football games and being interested in it that way, finding the interest in it. Because
I guess whenever there was an athletic event on campus, you were there. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, let's back up, though, before you took the job there at Alcorn. What even inspired you to go into the police academy, Chief Sykes?
Alcorn sent me. I went to police academy in 2008, and I started with Alcorn in 2007. I never saw law enforcement in my future. At that time, I needed a job. So once I got to Alcorn and I started learning law enforcement and being in law enforcement, I grew to love it. Then that's when it became a career, and I wanted to advance in it.
And advance you did, because you went from patrolling there at Alcorn for 13 years, being the longest running patrol patrolman, whatever the right word is,
Yes.
there, and then moving on to becoming the first woman ever to hold chief deputy in Claiborne County. Now, it feels like to me, Chief Sykes, that God's really been positioning you from the very beginning to get to this position that you're at now, because even while you were at Alcorn, you began a working relationship with the now sheriff in Claiborne County, which
Yes.
is Mr. Good. So what did y'all do at Alcorn together?
Patrol, we answered call. We actually worked on the same shift. So, I mean, we worked close together. So, like I said, we actually went to law enforcement academy together. So from the door, we had a bond. Because if you go through academy, you have to make bonds. And we kind of encouraged each other. When you go to police, we quit every week in our head, police academy. So we had to encourage each other to stick with it and push through. So we've been bonded since then.
So maybe share a little bit about his story, because that helps get you into the position of being chief. When did he get sheriff's elected? Correct. So when did he get elected sheriff there in Claiborne County?
It was sometime in November of 2019 is when he won the election, but we didn't take office until January the 6th. It wasn't official until January the 6th of 2020. So he's now been sheriff for a year.
And you've been chief for a year.
Yes.
And so the sheriff gets to appoint their chief deputy.
Yes.
And being good friends with Sheriff Good. How did that conversation happen? I mean, how did that sort of work out to where you got the opportunity to be chief?
Well, he often tell people it wasn't based on friendship, because I had to put a portfolio together just like everybody else. So I just received a phone call one day, and he's big on surrounding himself around people that he could trust. And like I said, we've known each other. And so he knew he could trust me, and I had his best interest at heart. And I think Jackson State and Alcorn was playing. And I received a phone call from him saying, God's working, God's dealing with me. And I'm like, okay. And he was like, I'm thinking about making you my number 2. And I'll hesitate, like, what? Because I never saw it coming.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm thinking about making you my number 2. He said, God's been talking to me, and my thing is putting somebody, my number 2 spot that's going to have my back. He's saying, I know you got my back 100%. Of course, he told me to do the portfolio, and I got on it. But I'm like, I'm going to have to leave Alcorn. And he was like, I expect you to. So, like I say, that was something different for me, because Alcorn was home, and that's all I knew. So now I'll be stepping into a position where I got to step out on faith. And I prayed about it, and we moved forward.
And we've
been moving ever since.
And you have been moving ever since. I've been keeping up with a little bit. I noticed a year ago, Chief Sykes, whenever the headlines came out that you made history as being the first woman to be appointed as chief deputy there in Claiborne County. And I thought, oh, this is a woman I need to get to know. And it's taken a year. But I'm assuming, again, that may be another move from a God thing, because you've been busy. Because you got elected or got appointed, and then a pandemic hit. You didn't see that one coming, did you?
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
And the pandemic was something different with law enforcement, especially enforcing the curfews, social distancing, all the things of that nature. And it was something different for everybody in the community. So,
well, you've been in the community, I guess, working as law enforcement in Claiborne County in some capacity for almost 2 decades. What was the biggest shift, I guess, in terms from going there on campus at Alcorn to then going into the actual, large community at large? Was there a big difference in the way you even looked at it, or was it just a different group, a different community to protect?
The only difference I would say is being at home. I'm now home where everybody knows everybody, rather than being at Alcorn State where you have students from all over the country. You have to build those relationships, to being in a community where relationships are already built, and working with your people, and, enforcing the law and building respect, and knowing that you have your best interest for the community, but at the same time you're going to do your job.
Right. What was it like or how did the community accept the first woman being their chief deputy?
I had big open arms.
I feel that
It was great.
I feel that out of both sides, because I mean, anytime there's change when it comes to anything big, you've got two sides of the fence that's going to have their opinions on it. But I think this just speaks loudly too, and you've been reported saying what a stance this is for women in law enforcement, because you don't see many taking up higher sort of positioned roles often, and even you yourself said that maybe you didn't even put this as a goal necessarily as being chief. It just sort of happened.
It happened, and I didn't, but, Sheriff Goods is big on women empowerment. And like I said, I'm thankful for the opportunity. He knew I could handle the job. I knew I could handle it. God's timing.
In God's timing. And like I mentioned a year ago, you hit the ground running. So we're going to dive into more about Chief Sykes and the changes, the good things that have come to Claiborne County, thanks to her and Sheriff Good, coming up next here on Good Things.
That's just how I feel. Trying to reach the things that I can't see. Trying to reach the things that I can't see. But that's just how I feel. That's just how I feel. That's just how I feel. Trying to reach the things that I can't
Farm Bureau Insurance is excited to introduce Drive Down, our new deductible rewards program. Drive Down lets customers save on their deductibles as a reward for driving safely and can help them become safer drivers in the process. Getting started is simple. Download the free mobile agent app and enroll in Drive Down. As a reward for signing up, you'll save an immediate 5% off your deductible after your first trip. Enroll in Drive Down today. With Drive Down and Farm Bureau Insurance, safe driving saves.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mississippi 811 is here for your safety. So we're asking you to call 2 working days before you dig, or use our Easy 811 app.
Whether you're a professional or a homeowner putting up a simple fence,
you can notify us and our member utility companies. We'll properly mark all their utilities.
This helps us save you from fines, penalties, injuries, or death.
Make our goal your goal with 0 damages and 0 injuries.
Call Mississippi 811 before you dig.
And let's have 0 damages, 0 injuries.
Whether you're a Rebel, a Bulldog, a Golden Eagle, or just a sports fan, SuperTalk Mississippi has got a podcast for you. Sports Talk Mississippi, the Rebel Report, Thunder and Lightning, the SuperTalk Eagle Hour are all now available for you, and it's all free. Get them all on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for SuperTalk on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
A phone call is made. A business keeps running. A class is still in session. Even in times of uncertainty, it's C-Spire team members like you that make it happen. From curbside pickups and same-day deliveries, to installing free Wi-Fi hotspots and ensuring our network is more reliable than ever, it's clear that you are truly customer-inspired. And thanks to your hard work, we all stay connected. Because you care.
making your afternoon just a little brighter. It's Good Things with Rebecca Turner on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Morning time, yeah, we're going strong, headed up, down the river, oh Lord, I feel the reveling.
Good Things wants to remind you that there are some great things to do in Mississippi, even unique places to visit. So take a little time today. Go to visitmississippi.org to find out more. And don't forget, you can listen to Good Things on supertalk.fm. We are streaming live there. We're also streaming through your SuperTalk Mississippi app that you can download on your tablet or smartphone. But the best way you can listen to the show each day is always on your local SuperTalk Mississippi radio station, where you can find us anywhere across the state. You can even find us in Claiborne County, as we were trying to find those for you, Chief Sykes, and all of your listeners today. And we are continuing to get to know Chief Sykes, Miss Christy Skyes. She made history in Claiborne County by becoming the first woman to be appointed chief. And I think it's great that you're the first woman that was appointed chief deputy, but I think your accolades up to that is even worth having a conversation about. You have 4 degrees. You worked your way up within law enforcement there at Alcorn State, being the longest running for 13 years. And now, within a year of being appointed to chief deputy, you've really hit the ground running, I guess, with you and your team. I'm assuming it's not a one-woman show there.
No, it's not.
But doing some and seeing some good changes. I mean, so let's talk about when you took the role and you realized sort of the gravity of what it was and what it could be. What did you automatically start thinking in terms of, and not changing as in what they were doing was necessarily wrong, in terms of changing as in moving Claiborne County forward into the 21st century?
Okay, one of the first things that caught my eye when we took office was, I guess you could say, the technology part of things. They were behind. 911 calls were still being written. Police reports were still being written. And I'm the type, I hate paper.
Yeah.
I would rather do everything on the computer. I'm a tech person. So what I can say, as of December 17th, we are now we are paperless. Everything is on the computer. So we take our 911 calls. We're doing our police reports. All of our reports are being done. I could check reports. So that was the biggest thing. So that was major for us.
What did it take to do that, though, Chief Sykes?
It took a lot.
Well, number one, I guess what you took getting the actual equipment or I guess the programming or upgrading.
It did. We Claiborne County Board of Supervisors, they've been behind us 100% with trying to get us to where we need to be. So we first met with them and let them know what we needed, and they've been consistently giving us what we needed. Connections. You had to reach out to the right people. We had several meetings with vendors who wanted to offer their services to us. We chose a vendor that the surrounding counties dealt with. That way we can interlock as far as outstanding warrants and different things like that. So that was one of the things that we have accomplished.
And then you have your police officers who have to not necessarily buy into it, but switch over to it. And at first, anybody who gets comfortable in doing things one way don't always want to change over. But I would assume once they get all of the digital and sort of technological advances, they're probably thinking, man, our jobs are so much more seamless now, right?
Yes. My team, I can't sit here and say I know everything as far as, because it's a system that we're learning. So my team, they've been pretty good on taking the information and doing and asking questions if they don't know. We're learning together and we're growing together. And that's what I'm about. I can't sit here and say I've been chief before. It's new. Mm-hmm. The sheriff can't say he's been sheriff before. So we're going to make mistakes, but it's making those mistakes, growing together, learning together, and that's what we're doing.
And that's what you're doing. And now you have the opportunity to grow and get more for Claiborne County because you helped them get accredited for federal grants. So what behind the scenes or what was missing or lacking for making that possible?
Paperwork. Paperwork and following up and asking questions and getting the information. It was just certain information that I had to receive, put it together, and submit it in by the deadline. So that was real big. And I'm proud of myself on a lot of things, and that was one of the moments when, just like when you rocking a baby, and that was my baby. So when I received that letter saying that confirmation, it was big for me.
Right.
Because that was one step on moving our department forward.
Well, I think anyone listening to Good Things, Chief Sykes, that has to do any sort of accreditation or anything to do with keeping, the I's dotted, T's crossed type stuff for whomever, something higher that has a regulation over you, they understand it. Once you send that in and get that letter back, it's like, thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
But now this is a good thing, because for the first time, Claiborne County can sort of write for those federal grants. Not saying that you have yet, but what are some of the potential that could come from that maybe they hadn't had the opportunity to take advantage of before?
New equipment, getting
because that's not cheap.
It's not. And then we have a nuclear plant in our backyard. So it's a lot of grants that the county has qualified for that has never been requested. So that's some of the stuff we want to look into. Bulletproof vests, body cameras, ammunition, just different things. We got approved for 7 new vehicles, because our vehicles are outdated and we've been constantly patching them and doing repairs. So the county did approve us for 7 new vehicles, so we should have that soon. So it's just a lot of things that we're trying to incorporate to help make our job easier, to be out in the community.
And then also I would say boost morale within your police force, right? Because it doesn't matter where you work, whenever you know that your leadership is getting you the top, or doing what they can to get you the top of line equipment so you can be the most efficient, the most effective, you feel like you're being seen and heard, then you show up to the job a little bit more ready to do your part.
Yes, I agree.
I totally agree. I agree there's pride with that. And there's also pride in giving back. And I know under your leadership, as well as there as Sheriff Goods, you have given back during this really hard time, making that connection back to the community, which is so important with food drives. Why is it so important to get the law enforcement in Claiborne County connected to the citizens and their needs?
One thing my boss is big on, community policing. He's constantly on myself and the deputies, dispatchers, no matter how big or small the position, community policing. Everybody going to be treated fair. Everybody going to be spoken to with respect. So giving back to the community allows us to interact with the community. A lot of people look at law enforcement, and you have to have I'm 5'2", 120 pounds, wet. So, a lot of people look at law enforcement with your chest out and you having to be strong and step out. That's not what it's about. We're about giving back. We're about being there when it's needed. We just want to have a relationship. We want to be a household name. So
I read somewhere where you said the biggest skill in law enforcement is listening.
It is.
Where did you learn that from?
Starting in law enforcement, and I can say I learned that early at Alcorn. It's 2 sides to every story, and sometimes you may not have to put your cuffs on somebody. A lot of people, and you'd be surprised, a lot of people just need somebody to listen to what they're going through. Need to know that they got somebody they could talk to, they can call on. And a lot of crimes are deterred for that reason. Listening first. And it sounds like you are doing a good job of at least listening to what is needed there to sort of bring Claiborne up to speed, up to code, number one, accreditation, and then sort of up to speed. So I know this has only been your first year. Good Lord, what else is on the horizon for you, Chief Sykes? I have no idea, but I'm looking forward to whatever it is.
You're also a mother of 3. How in the bejesus do you balance it all?
It's hard. I have a husband at home that helps with the children. My oldest is 17, so she helps a lot. The middle child is 14, and the baby is 6. So they kind of help out, look out for the little one. And he's a big boy, so he kind of run things also. But I make it work.
Well, just like every other hardworking mother who has both a family at home, but then goals and aspirations within their workplace. It just so happens that you wear a uniform that would scare your potential daughter's boyfriends. I think that's going to come.
I hope. I hope so. I hope she listens.
She better be listening, and so should he as well in that respect. Well, I just say kudos to you, Chief Sykes. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and following what you guys do there at Claiborne County. I know you have a great Facebook page for us to stay connected, but what would just be your word of advice to any other woman or young lady listening that may dream of a career in law enforcement?
Stick to it. If you want it, get it. Stay focused. Don't let nobody tell you can't do it.
Because you never know where
You never know.
You never
Focus and let God lead the way.
And on that note, y'all stick with us. We've got a few more good things for you coming up next.